I'm haunted by a text that I keep on my phone from one of my childhood friends. I'll never forget it. It was 2 months before she died. And she sent me a text, and I was speaking about my bipolar 2 disorder a long time ago. And she heard the story, and she sent me a text, Kyle, and she said, I'm so proud that you're doing this. It was so wonderful to see you speak about it. I've never shared this with anyone in my life, but I was also diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, and it made me feel dirty and ashamed. And from that day forward, I'm a changed woman when it comes to being more open and honest. I'm tired of losing good people to the diseases of mental health and substances.
That was a powerful moment, Miss Jackie Colbeth, from your recent episode from your podcast, It's All in Your Head. How does it feel watching that back?
Like a potpourri of emotions, it's hard to think about it, but at the same time, I've been like bowled over with what kind supporting words I received. And look, if it helps one person, I'm quite happy.
Well, it'll certainly help more than one person. I would say that you sharing your story on your podcast is it might be my favorite episode. I like knowing the person interviewing the guests.
I do too.
And I want to know the realness of it. I don't need to know where you're from, where'd you go to school, tell me about your real.
I don't care.
Yeah. I do wonder though how it feels being that vulnerable, even if you look at it. I don't even know if you look at it as a vulnerability, but being that transparent in such a public space.
Sometimes I don't know if I'll ever go on a date again.
They just Google Jackie Colbeth.
Well, yeah, that's like what all the kids do now, right? Like you meet someone like, hey, what's up? And, I meet lots of people all the time where I live.
Yeah.
But I laugh because I was like, well, but then I'm like, it's not like that was very active life before that's like getting ruined.
Yeah.
So, it's daunting to know, but at the same time, I think, God, how much I appreciated it when I was on like the hearing end.
Yeah.
Versus the speaking about it end.
Yeah.
And so any uncomfortability I might have pales in comparison to like the larger picture.
We're going to show some clips of this, the podcast, where I actually interview Jackie about her mental health history and life with mental health. But you brought up dating.
Yeah.
When do you tell people your diagnosis when you're dating somebody?
Over appetizers.
Oh, so number one. Oh,
No.
I'll share my answer after you share yours.
Well, I lived in California where people do that over appetizers, right? And that was always a bit like, for me, like, hi, wow. Yeah. To me, it's one of those things like when I'm comfortable enough and I've established a level of trust. I mean, we're blind dating people. It's not like I know people who know your clan and you know mine. I want to establish a level of trust because, this isn't like what's my favorite color or, my birthstone. Like this is, sensitive information. So I want to make sure I'm entrusting it with someone. So depending on the speed of which a relationship progresses and that's been different for me, that I just sort of know the time when I think it's appropriate.
And so how do you say it? How do you come out?
Well, I like to get them drunk.
And go, see what you're doing? I don't do that.
Hey, you're feeling good tonight. Guess what?
That's right, yeah.
let's see. I'm trying to think. I mean, it's been a hot minute since I've been in a relationship that I deemed, serious, I guess,
Right.
enough, right? To bring it up. My last one, it came up very like organically.
Mhm.
I also knew this person was very hip
Mhm.
to mental health, so it wasn't like really as daunting maybe as if I don't even know where you stand on this stuff, like
Right.
where your head's at.
Yeah.
So I knew the person, I had a good vibe that it would be well received, and he was okay,
It was okay. Yeah. Yeah.
like
I
okay, and I'm like,
What else? Yeah.
like, okay, bye, or okay, this isn't cool, or okay, really,
Yeah.
what? But no, it's just like, okay, so like, where are we gonna go to dinner?
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't really no phase there. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like,
as long as right, like, he and I agree with him. As long as you're taking care of it, if someone wants to give me news like that, anyone
mhm,
I'm dating, anything, they're on a spectrum, they suffer from depression, whatever it might be.
mhm.
He had the same reaction I would have,
Yeah.
which was, I totally support you so long as you're handling it and doing well. And I'm gonna, and obviously, I would be there if you weren't doing well and wanted to get better. But to me, you think it's some catastrophic game-ending issue. And he goes, I don't think it's that at all. I just, you're sharing it. I appreciate it. I hope it's something, that basically, you work on
Yeah.
to maintain, you know, the current you. Like
Yeah.
but so and I'm like that too. If you're conscious and you're working hard and you're dealing with things, I could deal with any news.
Yeah, I would say about 6 years ago, I wouldn't have been as, accepting as you. I did not realize the stigma I carried for for many different things. And
Yeah.
so if someone sat across from me and said, "Hey, I have, I don't even want to mention one, but any number of diagnoses." Back then, I probably would have said, "This is new to me. I don't understand this. I'm going to take a step back." Today, please, you can tell me whatever you have, I
Right.
or whatever you're living with. Sounds good. I just go off the behavior. Are you treating me kindly? Are we getting along? Because you can be anything, have the whole alphabet soup. But as long as you are NICE, then we're probably good.
No, and that's why I love you, Kyle. Like, I mean, the audience probably knows we have a long history, but that's why I love you. It's that sentiment of, look, if you're a kind, decent human being who
Yeah.
doesn't enjoy harming others, I think we're gonna get along famously.
Yeah.
And in more power to you.
And you know
Until
what? I won't even say that is a low bar either, because I don't meet a lot of people where I'm like, oh man, I've got to see this person again. I meet a lot of people that I go, very fine, probably don't need to cross paths again.
exactly, and those are the guys where I'm like, well, I'm certainly glad you didn't launch into your, advocate, because it would be some certain people, I don't want to say they're not worthy of the information, but at
Yeah,
the same time, like, why would you go about having an emotional conversation with some guy or girl you just met and you don't even know, like, if it's going to get past the second
that's
dinner?
true. That's true. I typically say when someone shares something mental health related with me, typically my first reaction, if it's not a question, is thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
telling me. Because if you're telling me, I'm assuming that I'm giving off something enough where you feel comfortable enough to tell me something that might be met with stigma in other places.
It's such a
Okay.
compliment.
Yes, it's such a compliment. Yeah. For all the people I've told about my depression, what a compliment you receive from me. We're gonna take a right turn here. There were a few emotional moments in our recent conversation about you and your life. I want to share one of them right now with the viewers. So take a look at this.
I was racked with guilt.
Mm.
When you sit a 16-year-old down and you tell them because of you, this is why we have to do this. And it's because your brother is neglected. I mean, any loving sibling is going to feel bad. And I felt horrible. And so I went on the plane and I went away, and I, at 16 to live by myself, in part, large part, because I didn't want to negatively impact my brother. We're very close. He's been such a supporter of me that really, for me at 16, the big moment was, okay, you don't want this impacting Brett. So away I went, amends I made, my amends was accepted. And to his point, at 16, it's not like you're setting out consciously to hurt people. When you're in the throes of a mental illness, you're in the throes of addiction, it really isn't something to be taken personal. And I know it doesn't feel that way, but it's not. There was not, I didn't wake up and be like, I want to suck all the attention off my beloved sibling. That wasn't, but that's really kind of the reality of what happened. So that was the predicate to, to get out of the house and live apart from my family.
Big moment there at 16 years old. Jackie, watching that back, you got a little emotional again. Where is that emotion coming from?
I think it's unintended consequences, right? Like when people don't, I think it's kind of emblematic, really, of like a system that we currently have that is broken. I think our mental health care system's broken. And so you have good people, right, making decisions that are hurtful, like deeply. And it doesn't have to be that way, but no one knows really how to play it different, if that makes sense. Like no one really knows any other way or how to deal than to, have that dynamic play out, right? Like and it's sad. But at the same time, I'm a very sensitive kid. I've always been very emotional, very sensitive. If I see someone cry, I start crying, so it's, even if I see myself cry, which is weird to watch back, but, that's part of the game too. Sometimes we cry about things that, have been hurtful, but all's well ends well is the message, really. Dynamics, people get hurt a lot, the family members, the person suffering, it can be a very hurtful situation all the way around. And, it's my hope that changes, because it has all the right parts. It has smart people, loving families. We have all the ingredients. It's just really getting a better mix and a better structure, I think, to take care of all the parties involved.
Did your family, and specifically your brother Brett, watch or listen to the episode?
Yes.
And what did they think?
My family does. He loved it. I'm fortunate. I am so lucky. I have a family that's like super, super supportive, and my brother, Brett, had reached out, but it's not like we're estranged. We talk all the time. We're like a clan, remember? And so yeah, it's been nice. I think to a degree, I'm sure my family members are like, took you long enough on some level, right? Like, so they're excited. Like,
it took you long enough for what? It took you long enough for what? What do you mean?
to really come out and like share your story, because I have unique experiences that can be shared. Again, like people with bipolar 2 disorder are like a fractional part of the population. So I have something to offer, something like a minority, of a minority.
Yeah.
And my family is they don't have stigma. I think I used to have a stigma and they never did. So I think in their eyes, they're kind of like, well, geez, you've been for 20 years, you've been living happily and healthily, 20 some odd years. And now, you want to do it. We and so it all comes from a good place.
Yeah.
As because you know them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to spend some time letting you know what some of our live viewers are saying. We have Leanne, who says she's glad that she found this channel on YouTube. Leanne, we're glad that you found it as well.
Yeah.
Semra says hello from Netherlands. We have Rue, who's apparently in Dubai. Hello, we have Dubai. We have
Dubai.
Mr. D. Smith. Looks like a cute little dog there. Hi from San Diego. Awesome.
I just moved from there. I was a San Diegan for a couple years.
Yeah, it's great to see you guys. Dekai Baron, probably said that wrong, but glad you're here as well.
That's
hello.
Like royalty.
Yeah, yes, we have royalty watching. Fantastic. And all of you, Guiana, hi, everyone. That's so nice to see you here live. Jackie, if you're cool with it, I would love to go to another clip from this discussion. I'm not even going to tee it up. Let's just go watch it.
I remember not being able to put a name tag on a feeling. And what I mean by that was I had a lot of anger that was pushed down. Substances, I think, helped suppress that. And that has to have some place to go or get addressed when you take your medication, your self-medication away. So for me, my early sobriety was both empowering because I felt like I had a sense of agency and I was accumulating more days without picking up a drink. And that was fantastic. But at the same time, I've never wanted to commit more felonies than in early sobriety.
Wow.
Because it was like, I wasn't equipped. So if everything for me is associated with, anger or just, kind of a bad attitude or aggressiveness, that was because I had no concept how to deal with it. I remember I was in outpatient treatment after doing, or an aftercare. I did outpatient while I was working full time when I was 22. So that was like 6 weeks of going to this place for hours at night after a full day of work. Yeah. And then you do this aftercare. And by the time I got to aftercare and I was probably 4 or 5 months without a drink, there was a joke amongst the class that like, you're liable to, get jackied, or someone was going to go Jackie on you. It had turned into like an adjective, like, the class was well aware of. So it wasn't until like kind of cleaning some of the gunk out that everything I responded, every emotion, I didn't know what it felt like to feel disappointed. I couldn't identify what felt shameful. I couldn't identify what felt good and empowering. I just couldn't identify disappointment. There were lots of emotions that just didn't have any sort of place or identity. And I remember specifically, I was dating a guy I was really crazy about. We'd broken up. He was, seeing some other girl at the time. I was just like totally devastated. I was so sad about this, especially because I initiated it. So I thought, this is what you did. This was your fault. Totally. And I remember I was out with friends and I was just rah, 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 and I can't believe in her, this and blah, blah. And I got done and one of them just looked at me. He was sipping on a Diet Coke and he said, "So you're sad?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, sad. Were you absent for my tirade? I'm quite angry. And he said, no, you sound like you feel sad and rejected. And I went, oh. I love that story.
I love where it ended. Sad and rejected.
Yeah, but it was perfect.
I don't remember when I don't have a recollection of not knowing my feelings.
You're lucky.
When you said that, you're like, you had to learn that as an adult to go, this is what disappointment feels like, and this is what frustration is. This is what anger is. I don't know if I've ever talked to somebody who has said it like that, Jackie, of like, I didn't know how to put a name on a feeling.
Yeah, I think, and again, I felt akin, when I was going through treatment for alcohol, you start to meet other people who are like, yeah, I kind of get, what you're saying, because anytime you've become uncomfortable, you've quickly found a way to numb that uncomfortability. Dr. Christy Lamb talks a lot about this when she talks about anger, right? Like, if you feel angry, there's extra anxiety because we're not supposed to feel that. Anger's bad. Anger's bad. You work harder and harder and harder to kind of keep the lightning in a jar.
Yes.
And, depending on tons of different factors, your products and your environment, communication skills too. We're just kind of this hodgepodge. And I remember thinking like, wow, like he is right. And feeling sad and rejected feels horrible. It feels so horrible. I'm going to scream about it. And I'm going to get huffy puffy, really angry about it because it makes me feel that bad. Yeah. That was really kind of where I think, my head was at. But now when you can identify things more, I don't rush to shut it down. I'll be like, okay.
Well, that was going to be my question. When you look, even I don't believe I have a problem or an issue with substance use.
Right.
But if I go to a dinner and I'm sitting with people and I don't really know how to relate with them, I am going to order a drink to feel more comfortable. I admit I use alcohol in that way.
Very natural.
So I must, to a degree, also handle some of my emotions that way. If I'm so stressed out or something and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have a glass of wine and forget about this, that is a coping mechanism that teeters on probably being a healthy one. My question is, when you remove that, when you don't have that anymore, how do you feel all of that stuff and move through those feelings?
I think you trudge.
It's trudging.
You trudge, you stumble, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back. It's messy. For me, I'll speak for myself. It was a messy process, internally. I laugh. I probably never looked so good externally because at the time, internally, I never cared so much about my appearance physically as I did during those times. And I think it was because it was messy figuring that out, almost toddler-like, but in a 22-year-old, working full-time body. It's weird. You should, Jackie, these are things a lot of people learned earlier, and that's just the truth. They learned all about this stuff. I didn't. So clumsily, kind of working your way, through it.
Yeah. That sounds so honest and so real. And when you say trudge, I could feel that. I go, yeah. And sometimes you got to trudge and fail and then get up again and then be irritated that you failed. And then you have to get through the irritation of failing and blah. Yeah, that's part of it.
Right. It's all part of it. But I always think of that quote, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked on your butt. It only matters if you get back up that one more time.
My best friend and I have a thing we say to each other, and we say that's part of it. And
like that.
so he'll just, he called me the other day, and he's trying to move, and he's getting all these issues and stresses with moving. And I'm listening. I'm going, oh, that sucks. Can I help you? Da, da, da. And then at the end, I go, well, that's part of it. And it really just encompasses, it's just everything. Just like, oh, I scraped my knee. It's like, yeah, you're alive. That's part of it. Like,
you're alive.
Yeah. It's just like my kid's yelling at me, right? Because you have a kid, and they will yell at some point, and that's part of it.
I love that.
It's just it's our form of radical acceptance. That's part of it. That's part of it.
I'm gonna take it and adopt it, but I'll footnote you.
Yeah. Yes. Please do. Jackie, it's lovely to see you. I'm so excited for the second season of It's All in Your Head. It's getting actually some nice reviews on the podcast platforms. It's getting very nice commenting right here on YouTube. And for all those watching this video, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel to not only get immediate access to new episodes of It's All in Your Head, but also interviews with psychologists and psychiatrists and people who, like Jackie, have lived experience and are coming on our platform to share their story to help others. There's a lot here, so we appreciate you joining us. Jackie, any final words about you?
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity to share my story. Certainly, it's special to have you interview me about it, an extra level of comfort. But I hope it can help 1, 2, 3, 4 people more, the better. But I also want to let the audience know, because I'm excited about next week's podcast episode, which is where I interview you, our esteemed host, face of MedCircle, and you get to share with us your lived experience with subjects like depression and struggling with sexuality and all the things that happens so much more than people think all the time. And you've got such an awesome story, and I know our viewers for many years, I'm sure, have wanted to hear this. So I will give you that next week.
We'll see. But yeah, if you're interested in a depressed gay guy's story, then definitely tune in. You're gonna be real happy with the content. Yeah. Okay. Well, we have a preview of next week's episode. It was an honor to be a part of it as well. Thank you, Jackie, for letting me come on, and we'll leave you with a sneak peek of next week's episode. Thanks for watching. Remember, you got this. I remember everything feeling very dark. Feeling very black and white, and feeling very helpless for whatever reason. I believe that I was super depressed, very, very depressed. I was also at 9 and 10 years old. I knew I was different, not from just depression, but from being gay. Yeah. And so my MO was to be small, to be quiet, to hide, to get through it, because I was just trying to be like, I'm not gay and I'm not depressed. To try to explain to people who haven't been depressed, I'd say it's like I understand fundamentally that a good thing could happen to me. Like I might win the lottery if I was depressed. And I go, this is good. I would love this money. This is awesome. But do I feel excited? Do I feel happy? No, I feel like I want to go back in bed.